We're visiting the places in Liverpool where John Lennon and Paul McCartney wrote songs, as well as the locations they wrote songs about.
So let's walk in the childhood footsteps of the greatest songwriting team ever.
It was here at St. Peter's Church where John Lennon and Paul McCartney met for the first time on July 6, 1957. We are absolutely thrilled to be here today walking through the footsteps of this incredible songwriting partnership. Let's get started. Now for a house so famous it even has its own nickname.
John Lennon lived here in Mendips with his Aunt Mimi and Uncle George between the ages of 5 and 22. It's nicknamed after the Mendips Hills in England.
John's house was pretty fancy. It was semi-detached, has stained glass windows, and a covered porch. And it was on this covered porch that his Aunt Mimi made him go outside and play guitar because she didn't want him playing it inside.
John wrote several songs here, including the Beatles' first UK #1 hit, Please Please Me.
We have tickets to tour John's house today, but we can't take any pictures or videos, so we will report back. John's home was surprisingly really big, but despite all that, he had this teeny tiny room, but I really love the touches of putting posters on the wall. It really just kind of helped you envision teenage John Lennon living here. Now we are visiting a location I am the most excited to see, Paul McCartney's house.
The McCartney family moved here in 1955 when Paul was 13 years old.
It was in this house that some of the Beatles' biggest hits were written. Unlike John's house, Paul and John could actually write songs inside of Paul's house, and apparently there were over 120 songs written here. All right, the moment we have been waiting for, we are about to go inside Paul McCartney's childhood home, where some of the most famous Beatles songs were written. As a big Beatles fan, I could always tell, a big difference of the upbringing between Paul and John, but actually being at their homes, you can tell it's just a completely different atmosphere in terms of how they were raised, and I think that really shows in their music. You got the anti-hero John, and then the very optimistic Paul. It makes sense.
Yeah, John's home was kind of sterile, clinical.
Yeah.
Kind of more uptight, it felt like, but Paul's home was very warm, inviting. Our guide said they would frequently have neighbors over all the time to watch the telly, use the phone. So it did seem like their childhood homes were exact opposites.
Yeah, you definitely want to hang out with the McCartneys, for sure. You can tour both Paul and John's homes through the National Trust. We will put a link in the description, and we highly recommend it.
We're now off to a place where nothing is real. When John Lennon was a kid, Strawberry Field was a Salvation Army children's home.
John Lennon used to climb these walls to play with the kids who lived here, but eventually the Salvation Army got annoyed and they eventually told his aunt about it. His Aunt Mimi told him to stop climbing the wall because if he didn't, that they would hang him, but he kept on climbing the wall anyway and eventually wrote about it, hence the lyric, "Nothing to get hung about, Strawberry Fields." It's just amazing to be right in front of Strawberry Field right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, listening to this song my whole life, and now I'm finally here. It's very surreal.
It is. The most famous street in Liverpool does not actually feature most of the locations noted in the song Penny Lane.
Locations such as the barbershop and bank are technically located on Smithdown Place.
The fire station is on Mather Avenue or Mather Avenue. We're not entirely sure how it's pronounced.
Instead, the song Penny Lane mainly refers to the shelter in the middle of the roundabout.
Penny Lane was actually the bus depot that Paul used to use to exchange buses to get to John's house and vice versa. It is so surreal to actually be at Penny Lane. I mean, you hear the song all the time and it just doesn't seem like it's a real place, but being here is completely different. And it really just brings life to this whole entire area. I can just picture the Beatles hanging out here. It's surreal, truly.
Right across the street is St. Barnabas Church, where Paul sang in the choir.
There were several other Lennon McCartney spots that we didn't get the chance to go to since we only had one day in Liverpool, but the places that we did go to were absolutely amazing, and it's something that we'll remember for the rest of our lives. Which location interested you the most? Comment below and let us know, and as always, thanks for watching.
Locations such as
where some of the most famous
the Beatles first, it's crazy, you know.